Welcome to Telugu One Academy. We will be discussing parliamentary committees today. In this class, we have various important committees of parliament. Generally, we can say that we have two important committees. One is parliamentary committee. Under parliamentary committee, we have standing committees and ad hoc committees. So when we say standing committees, these are permanent committees. So every year, the parliament has to constitute these committees, and we have various standing committees on various matters. Like we have a financial standing committee, we have committee on day-to-day business, we have a committee on the privileges, we have committee also on various factors which is concerned with the parliament. And we also have ad hoc committees. Ad hoc committees are temporary committees. Once the purpose gets solved, these committees are dissolved. So we have ad hoc committees which are constituted by the parliament for a limited period till the particular issue is solved. But in our exam, in UPSC or in various other exams, especially when we talk about Group 1 services under the TSPSC and APPSC, we have parliamentary committees which focuses mainly on financial committees, that is permanent committees, financial committees. And in financial committee, we have three important committees. That is, we have PAC, that is we have Public Account Committee, we have Estimate Committee, and we have Committee on Public Undertakings. So first we need to understand why we should have these committees, why we should have parliamentary committees. So we'll get into the class. So importance of parliamentary committee. We know the importance of parliament. Parliament is where the people sends their representative to the parliament, and the parliamentarians, the members of the parliament, both Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, will debate, discuss and decide on various acts which become law, and which is when implemented will add to the growth of the country. So laws are very important here. So to discuss on various matters, as we know, parliamentarians are may not be mature enough, or they are amateurs. That is, they may not have subject knowledge, because parliament discusses on various matters like finances, defense, education, health, security of the nation. So the parliament, the members of the parliament may not have adequate technical knowledge about these things. So they may just discuss on skeleton nature. So, but we have to make a law, we have to pass a legislation by giving it a detailed study, by knowing its pros and cons of such law. If such law is implemented, or if we bring such policy, how would it affect? Would it be for the benefit of the people, or would it have a burden on the resources? So all these things will be discussed in detail by the parliamentary committee. So parliamentary committee acts as a basic work. They will add on the importance, they give technical scope or focus on such matters. So because of the paucity of the time of the parliamentarians, that is, they do not have much time, because most of the time they even have to spend in their constituency, because the constituency is large for the parliament, and they have to look after their people, because they have to go for the elections, so they have to fulfill their promises. So in that way, they may not find time to get into the details of these matters. That is paucity of time, what we can call. And second is, as we have discussed, they do not have technical knowledge, because when we say finances, when we say expenditure, when we say appropriation, when we say revenue, all these things need a technical expertise, that is subject knowledge of such matter. So when a bill is introduced in the parliament which is related to the agricultural policy, or which is related to the education policy, health policy, defense policy, industrial policy, so every subject has its own importance. So to know much about such subjects, such policy, they have to give a very detailed discussion and debate. And for that matter, we have constituted, the parliament have constituted parliamentary committees which will work on such matters in detail. So Article 118 empowers the empowers the parliament to create such parliamentary committees which is constituted every year. So importance of parliamentary committee is it provides a forum. We will have a platform. We will have a platform where the members of parliamentary committee will discuss on such issues in detail, and then they let know the entire parliament about the technicalities of such issues. Then in the parliament, both opposition and ruling party will have a complete and comprehensive discussion and debate on such matters. Then only if the majority of the people in that particular house passes the bill will become law or it is enacted. So before enacting of the law, that is before the bill is passed and then becomes an act, it will go through a very comprehensive process. So every subject is very complex in sense we may have many things which a common man may not understand or a parliamentarian may not understand. It should have a very technical knowledge about such things. So to deliberate on such matters, we need to have a group of people who may have a subject expertise. And one important thing is also there that when the policy is has to be brought, a small group can work efficiently on such matter, because parliament is a very big body. As we know, in Lok Sabha we have 545 members, 250 members in the Rajya Sabha. All these members cannot discuss on particular issue. That would become chaos. And we may not come out with efficient policy. So we need to have a very limited member having subject knowledge which could get into the details of such matter, which have in-house meetings. No one will disturb them, but they will work into such issues on a very scientific basis. So on any complex matters, we need an expertise to understand the details and technicalities of such matters. So that is one thing which provides forum for the discussions and debates. And we also know that these members, that is members of such committee, be it public accounts committee, be it committee on public undertakings or estimates committee, we will discuss all these committees in detail. Now in this class we are just discussing the importance of parliamentary committee. So the committee will help by providing expert details. That is, the government during its formulation of the policy will also take the help of the bureaucrats, because bureaucracy is a link. Bureaucrats are experts in such matters. Politicians are directly elected by the people, some are indirectly elected. They may not have the technical knowledge of such policies. They are closer to the people, they are representatives of the people, but day-to-day administration is handled by the bureaucrats, and bureaucrats have all the data. They also have the experience of implementing such policies. So here bureaucrats would give advice on such matters whenever they are asked, and parliamentary committees would certainly take help of such experts in these matters. So when we say experts, they may be government officials, they may be experts on subject knowledge, or the parliamentary committee can also take the help of experts from international agencies if the matter has got such importance. So it provides a forum. And the second important thing is build consensus. When we say consensus, see, parliament is a symbol of democracy where there will having a lot of debates and discussions. We have an opposition party. Whatever the ruling party brings a policy, definitely the opposition party will oppose such bill until and unless there is a consensus developed. So the ruling party should also give chance to the opposition party to air their grievance or to air their view. They will generally ask suggestions from the opposition party also. So the parliamentary committees, when we talk the public account committee, it's a very important financial committee which is chaired by, that is the chairman of public account committee is a member of the opposition party. So such an important role the opposition party will also play when it comes to parliamentary committees. So here one need to understand is the importance or the significance of the parliamentary committees is also to build consensus, that is to have a coordination among all the members. Majority doesn't just survive, because in every parliament we have majority, and the bills would be generally passed when we have help of the majority. But we have to look these matters in a longer run. What if such policies are implemented? How would it affect the nation's growth, or what is the burden on the country's exchequer? So it builds consensus across political parties. In coalition governments, obviously we have different political parties coming together will form the government, but when it comes to certain policy matters or to bring certain legislations, few political parties may oppose that particular legislation, though they support the government. So to have a coordination between such political parties, this parliamentary committee will do the job, because we have members from all the political parties. They will sit together, they will discuss, they will have a debate, they will try to develop the consensus, and they will try to make understand the other members of the parliament about the importance and the technicalities of such legislation. So building consensus is important. That is the role played by the parliamentary committees. And as we know, the parliament has to sit for many times. It may also take years to pass a legislation. So the proceedings of the House during the sessions are live telecast. They will go to air on live. So the important thing here is the members who talk on such subject, or the members who involved in debates and discussions on such legislation, should have a knowledge about what the legislation is all about, what are the technical things, because entire country will be listening to them, and the important sections of the people who really get affects by such legislation would definitely want to know what are the pros and cons of such legislation. So until and unless such minister or member of the parliament, when speaking on such legislations, is not well prepared, he may not convey the importance of such legislation to the House in particular and to the people of the country in general. So the minister has to have the knowledge of such legislations, and if the parliamentary committee is well prepared, then the parliamentary committee with limited members would better convey such member about the importance of such legislation. So one important thing is the parliamentary committees will discuss in closed door meetings, because we know that parliamentary committees are a private in nature. They are they have to maintain a confidentiality, because in particular legislation they may come out with such law, or they may not come out with such law. So before bringing such bill into the parliament, they have to get into the details of such legislation. So they have to make sure that every details of such bill has to be maintained very confidentially, because that may affects the other process also. So because they conduct all the meetings in a closed door, they will have a very open mindset that they could discuss any matter. If few members of the parliament committee are against such bill, then they can easily convey their suggestions, or they may advise the chairman of the parliamentary committee about their dissatisfaction or satisfaction. So because of such openness in parliamentary committee, the bill which is coming to the parliament will generally minimize also negatives whatever it have before. So the parliamentary committees will in detail get into the bill, and they will try to minimize whatever the defects the bill carries before becoming into an act. So examine policy issues. When we say policy issues, the parliamentary committee just do not get into the details of that policy, but it will also examine the policy issue. For example, when we say if the legislation is regarding health bill or no health policy, so the parliamentary committee would also discuss the importance of health policy, how this health policy would affect the future coming generations of India. We have faced many problems regarding the health related things during this pandemic situations, during COVID-19, all this 2.5 years. So for that matter, the parliamentary committee should have a broader vision, which could try to strengthen the health infrastructure in country. It should also try to build confidence among the people regarding health matters. So it should have a 360 degrees view regarding the health mission. So the parliamentary committee could also question the policy matters also if it is not happy with the way the parliament is bringing the bill. So because we have such a right to the parliamentary committee members, they will generally try to develop a very strong bill which would have a positive effect on the nation and also the people. So that is one thing. And when we say policy issues, the government has to consider these advices of the parliamentary committee, because the parliamentary committee is constituted to get into the details, technicalities of such legislation. So generally the government do not reject such advices. If at all the government do not take any action on such advices, the government has to give a report, give a note that why the government has not taken the suggestions of the parliamentary committee. Because we can say that parliamentary committee is established, it has a constitutional backup. Article 118 empowers the parliament to constitute such committees. So the government in general will take the advices of parliamentary committees. In any case, if the government does not listen to the advices of such committee reports, then the government has to explain the parliament that why it hasn't taken the advice of parliamentary committees. So the report on whether such things have accepted or rejected should also be discussed in the parliament. So based on this action taken report and the status of the suggestions, the implementation of the suggestions of the parliamentary committee, there will be discussion and debate in the parliament. So this is one thing. And as we know, we have mandated that Article 118 of the Constitution of India will become a backbone to parliamentary committees, because this article empowers the parliament to constitute parliamentary committees which will examine the various legislations in detail. And as we have discussed earlier, we have two important committees. One is standing committee, which are permanent committee on various matters, and we have ad hoc committees. We have ad hoc committees which is constituted by the government, and which is after completion of the work, the committee is dissolved. For example, many committees we generally see on like for example, we have Sri Krishna committee for the AP reorganization bill. Once it is completed its task, it got dissolved. So we have ad hoc committees which generally work on specific issues, and once once the issue is solved or when the term is expired, then the committee is dissolved. And we have standing committees on various matters. We have financial committees, we have defense committees, we have committees on day-to-day administration. We have also committee established for the sake of when we have a manifesto given by the political parties, so such manifestos also be implemented in reality. So we also have committees on the implementation of such manifesto before political parties goes to elections. So we have standing committees, and we have three important standing committees under financial committee, because here we will stick to financial committees only. Under financial committees we have three important committees. These are Public Account Committee, we generally call it as PAC, Public Account Committee. I think we remember we have Comptroller and Auditor General, CAG. So CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General, will become a friend, will become a philosopher and advisor to the Public Accounts Committee. So we have Estimates Committee, other important financial committee, which will generally work on the estimates, that is the revenue, expenditure, budget on various things. And we have committee on public undertakings. We have a committee on public undertakings. Public undertakings are the commercial arm of the government of India or of various states. They are commercial arms, that is they are revenue generating companies. We have many, like we have Maharatna company, Mini Ratna company, so Navaratna companies. So all these companies are comes under public undertakings. And we have a parliamentary committee which will study the report of such undertakings. So this will be discussing in detail here. So we'll start with Public Accounts Committee. So the importance of this Public Accounts Committee here is, recently, last year we have completed 100 years of its constitution. The reason is, we in year 1921, first time we have constituted PAC, Public Accounts Committee. The base for constitution of PAC in 1921 is Government of India Act 1919. We call this act as a very important landmark in the history of India, because we have brought many legislations. After 1919, we got Government of India Act 1935, which becomes a base for our Indian constitution. So 1919, that is Montague-Chelmsford reforms of 1919, has been the base for the Public Accounts Committee. Initially, the Public Accounts Committee, didn't had such members, and there was no liberal democratic discussion in Public Accounts Committee. But once after independence, that is after 1947, we had made it more liberal, more democratic in nature, and we have strengthened the Public Accounts Committee. So there may be a chance of getting question in this year, because it's in the news. So PAC, Public Accounts Committee, which is a very important financial standing committee. We need not to forget this. It's a standing committee. It's not an ad hoc committee. It's an important standing committee, Public Accounts Committee, which generally works on the reports of CAG. So there may be a question, which committee works on the reports of Comptroller and Auditor General? Public Accounts Committee, Committee on Public Undertakings, Estimates Committee, or none of the above. So we have to remember that PAC is the answer, Public Accounts Committee. So CAG will become a friend, guide and philosopher for Public Accounts Committee. They will generally work on expenditure, appropriation of the bill, how the audit report goes, what is the budget allocated for such programs. Does that budget enough for the program, or the budget being spent on such program is prudent or not, or is there any appropriation, or is there any diversion, is there any scams happened on such matters? So all these matters will be in detail discussed and deliberated by the Public Accounts Committee. So this is an important thing. Parliamentary committee, as we know, it has a constitutional mandate. So as we have just discussed, it's the first PAC was constituted in the year 1921 by Montague-Chelmsford reforms. We call Montague-Chelmsford reforms also as Montfort reforms in year 1919. So this is one thing. There may be also question, when is the first PAC constituted? Generally, we generally forget that PAC is not constituted post-independence, but we have a historical background of PAC. So in 1921, on the basis of report of Montague-Chelmsford reforms, we got a necessary to constitute a committee which study in details the expenditure, appropriation, or regarding the revenues of the government. So the chairman of the committee is appointed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. We generally have 22 members in total, 22 members of Public Accounts Committee. In 22 members, 15 members are drawn from Lok Sabha and 7 members are from Rajya Sabha. Initially, post independence also, we did not have members from the Rajya Sabha. Only we had members from the Lok Sabha, but given the importance of the financial related matters, even Rajya Sabha is the elder house in our parliament. We have a Rajya Sabha which has elder house, and the Rajya Sabha people are not directly elected. We call them they are the representatives of the state, and they are more aware of such matters. They are educated, they are expert of from various fields like science, technology, education, health, defense. They may be experts of from such background. So the members of the Rajya Sabha have also been included in the PAC. One important thing is the chairman of the Public Account Committee is from opposition party. This is the beauty of the PAC. Generally what happens, before 67 also, the chairman of the Public Account Committee was from ruling party, but unless there is an opposition regarding revenue matters, we may not expect a beautiful or efficient legislation to come. So when the responsibility is given to the opposition leader regarding the matters related to the expenditure and appropriation of revenues, then definitely we can say that there is a democracy, because opposition party should also be given an importance related to this matter. So as we know, the committee is not an executive body. It doesn't execute the things, but it's a body which advises the parliament. It will study the matters in detail, and it will come up with various suggestions, advices, which it gives to the parliament, and on such reports the parliament would discuss in detail. As we know, the parliament comprises of both Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and obviously many political parties involved in such debates and discussions. So there will be a healthy democratic deliberations on these matters. So one thing we need to understand is the PAC consists of members from both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha as well. Before 1967, the members were only, the chairman was appointed only from the ruling party, but now at present, the chairman is from opposition party. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary is the present chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. Before Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, it was Mallikarjun Kharge, who was chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. So it is not an executive body. We need to understand it's not an executive body. It doesn't execute the functions. It's just an advisory body, and the advice of these committees have to be in general accepted by the government. In non-acceptance of such advices, the parliament should give the explanation that why the advices have not been accepted. So that is the importance given to such committees. This is like we have 22 members, we have 15 from Lok Sabha and 7 from Rajya Sabha. Every year the nomination is everywhere. That is, the committee has a term of 1 year. Every year the committee should be reconstituted. So the members can continue their membership, but in general we have a term of 1 year. So this is an important question. Again, we need to understand, we need to remember this number: 15 from Lok Sabha and 7 from Rajya Sabha. Again, there will be elections. The elections will also be depending upon the proportionate of the members in such house by single transferable vote, and the chairman is appointed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. So, what is the purpose of PAC? Important thing is why we need to constitute the Public Accounts Committee. There is a thing. See, we have public accounts. Here, public is people. Account is generally related to revenues. Revenue, that is expenditure, appropriation, whatever. Everything should will run on money. So the government of India will collect taxes, will get non-taxes from other sources, and we will spend on various projects. We have capital expenditure, we have day-to-day administration expenditure. So all these things have to be managed very prudently, because everything, finances are the lifeline of any government. To come up with many welfare policies or developmental policies, the government should have money in their hands, and the government generally will spend such money in a very prudent way. So the main purpose of Public Accounts Committee is to get into the details of the expenditures, of the revenue, of various things which is contained in the budget. And initially the PAC will study on the reports of CAG, as we have repeated this, Comptroller and Auditor General, under Article 148 of the Indian Constitution. We have under Article 148 we have CAG. CAG will generally submit their report to the President. President will lay before the Parliament, before both the houses of the Parliament, and Parliamentary Committee will discuss in detail on such reports submitted by the CAG in the Parliament. So that is important thing is money. Why, how, when the money is spent. As we have seen on the reports of Public Accounts Committee, on the reports of CAG, many scams have unearthed during the UPA 2 rule. We have unearthed the 2G scam. There was a 2G scam, there was a Commonwealth Games scam. There were many coal scam we had seen. So Adarsh apartments, that is Adarsh buildings in Mumbai. So we have seen such scams also. So all these scams need to be unearthed, because there is a loss of revenue to the government. So the main purpose is to study such reports in detail and ascertain, that is to make sure that the whatever money the government is spending on such programs will have an efficient implementation, whether such programs are being helpful to the people. If it is welfare scheme, really the development, the fruits of development are reaching to the last person who is standing in the line. That is what we call, that is Antyodaya Yojana. The people, the development, the fruits of the development should reach to the people at rural level, at the grassroots level. So that has to be ensured by the Public Accounts Committee. One thing we need to remember is the minister will never be part of the Public Accounts Committee. Here when we say minister may be from Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha. He is obviously the member of the parliament from ruling party. Ministers are not made member of the Parliamentary Committee, that is Public Accounts Committee. So it examines the accounts showing the appropriation. The word appropriation means spending of the money on various programs, projects, be it welfare schemes or developmental schemes or various policies, any policy, health policy, education policy, defense policy, whatever policy we call. So appropriation of such budget should be examined by the PAC, whether such allocation of money to particular program has been spent on that head, and if it is spent, then what are the result? Had we got the result as we expected? Is there any diversion of the budget? So all these things have to be ensured by the Public Accounts Committee. So various functions. So it's except public undertakings, because we have an exclusive committee, that is Committee on Public Undertakings. All other matters related to the finances are examined by the Public Accounts Committee. So as we have said, CAG is the base. Comptroller and Auditor General's report forms the base of the Public Accounts Committee. That is why we call the CAG as friend, guide and philosopher of the Public Accounts Committee. So there are many functions. See, when we say incorrect estimating is in the formation of the budget, there may be exaggeration of some amount. If the program needs, for example, 1000 crores, the budget may give 1500 crores. So obviously there is a loss of 500 crores there. Had the budget does not depict such figure, that 500 crores would have been spent on other schemes. So incorrect estimating is also an error on part of the officials or any person who is involved in preparation of the budget. So the committee will work on such matters also. Will continue with the other two financial committees, part of financial committee, that is Estimates Committee and Committee on Public Undertakings. So hope we would get into the class. So today we'll discuss Estimates Committee. In last class we have discussed Public Accounts Committee. Just brief introduction about PAC. Public Accounts Committee, it's an important financial committee which works on the report of CAG. That is, we have Comptroller and Auditor General under Article 148 of the Indian Constitution. So on the work of CAG, the Public Accounts Committee would work and it will get into the details, the minute details of whatever the report has been submitted by the CAG to the President. President will submit that reports to the Parliament. So Public Accounts Committee will deal into the technicalities of all those details or reports mentioned in the submitted by the CAG. We have Estimates Committee, a background of Estimates Committee. So this is one of the three important committees what we have. So what is estimates? Why we call this committee as Estimates Committee? So as we know, we have a budget, we have an annual financial statement, we have what we officially called as annual financial statement. We refer it as a budget which is introduced in the Parliament. The budget deals with everything related to the money, the finances of the country. So Estimates Committee will deal with the technical details of the estimates mentioned in the budget. So as we know, we have major head, minor head and different subsectors in the budget, and Estimates Committee will work on the budget or the estimate given on the programs or the projects mentioned in the budget. So the purpose of this committee is to examine the estimates included in the budget. So budget is presented by the finance minister in the Parliament, and there will be a general discussion on the budget, and then as we know, the member of parliaments, that is MPs, both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Generally, why we have these committees is the members of parliament do not have time because of paucity of time and because of lack of expertise. Not all members of parliament understand the technicalities of budget. So there has to be to protect the democratic system, to ensure that whatever is mentioned in the budget should have a detailed analysis. So to explain the parliament or to explain the general people that what are included in the budget, there will be general discussions in the parliament. So all the member of parliament cannot get into the details of the budget. So we have a specialized committee which works on the estimates mentioned in the budget. So the purpose of this committee is we have an expert group which works on the budget, and this group is exclusively selected or nominated from the Lok Sabha. Unlike we have Public Accounts Committee, that is PAC, or Committee on Public Undertakings, where the members are both from Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Here in Estimates Committee, we have members exclusive from the lower house of the parliament, that is the Lok Sabha, and its main purpose is to examine is to work in detail, to try to understand the technicalities mentioned in the budget, and to criticize if there is any overestimate on any project or any head, or underestimate or given lesser proportion of budget to such a particular sector, then the committee will take that issue to the parliament. This is one thing. When we talk about the limitations of the parliamentary committee, particularly Estimates Committee and the Committee on Public Undertakings, we will generally criticize this work of these committees, because it's basically a post-mortem work. The Estimates Committee will examine the estimates included in the budget after the budget is presented and discussed in the parliament. So basically it's a post-mortem work. But it will act as a yardstick, or it will reflect the committee's intention when the government prepares its budget for the next time. So one is it examines the estimates, and second is it suggests economies. When we say economies in public expenditure, economy is spending money prudently, that is not wasting the money. Actually the money belongs to the people, so whatever the money collected from taxes or from any other sources should spend very prudently, that is to minimize the wastage, and whatever the money is spent actually on the projects or programs should have a multiplying effect. So spending maybe on capital expenditure or day-to-day administration, that has to carry a sense of economy, that is minimize the wastage and maximize the efficiency. So the committee here not only examine the estimates included in the budget, but the committee will also suggest the ways and means how the estimates or how the expenditure could be made more efficient and more economical. So that is the reason why we call it's an Estimates Committee is also called as Continuous Economy Committee, because it monitors, because as we know the term of the Estimates Committee is actually 1 year, as both Public Accounts Committee and Committee on Public Undertakings, even the Estimates Committee term has 1 year. And we also know that a budget is presented in the parliament every year. Every year we have a general budget, and because the work of Estimates Committee is post-mortem, the term of the Estimates Committee would be continuing with new members coming in, and there will be a continuous examination of the estimates presented in the budget. And because the particular committee will recommend on various aspects of the budget, when the budget, if the government finds any lacunae or any misconception regarding the preparation of the budget, on the suggestion of the report of Economic Committee, in coming budget, that is the next budget, they would minimize that gap. So we also called Estimates Committee as a Continuous Economy Committee. Here economy, why we call economy is it suggests the ways and means to minimize the wastage and to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the budget. So there might be a question on this topic. Generally we expect questions on parliamentary committees in UPSC or various state services. So the question might be like this: which committee is called as Continuous Economy Committee? Because it is the Estimates Committee which continuously works on the budget. We call Estimates Committee as a Continuous Economy Committee. So getting into the background of the committee, when it got created or established. As we know, even the Public Accounts Committee, that is PAC, was also created or established in year 1921. As we know, in 1919 we had Chelmsford reforms, that is Montague-Chelmsford reforms. We call in short as a Montfort reforms. It's Montfort reforms. That is, they have given a series of things which the government of India of that time, that is British, have implemented these suggestions, and the Indians were not at all happy with the way the Britishers have implemented all these things. But the creation of Estimates Committee, in fact the Public Accounts Committee also, so the Estimates Committee was having traces in year 1921 on the basis of Montfort reforms, that is Montague-Chelmsford reforms of 1919. Then post independence, that is after 1947, that is when we have ruled our country. In 1950, John Mathai was the first finance minister, and John Mathai has recommended on the creation of Estimates Committee. What the Estimates Committee, what we have today, stands on the recommendations of our first finance minister, John Mathai. So again, there might be a question on whose recommendations the Estimates Committee has been created post independence. When we say post independence, it is John Mathai, and the base of Estimates Committee stands in year 1921, which also has its base in Montague-Chelmsford reforms. So that is the basic of Estimates Committee, from where we actually had its origin. And when it comes to its members, we have 30 members. We have 30 members. This is a very large group. 30 members is not a less number. When we say most of the members have technical knowledge regarding the Estimates Committee. They might be experts in economy, finance, budget, auditing, account, law, whatever, because it's a huge number. And when we say, when the members are nominated to this committee, which is exclusively taken from the Lok Sabha, the lower house of the parliament, because the major difference what we have in the powers when we compare Lok Sabha to Rajya Sabha is finance or money bill, and budget is a sort of exclusive domain of Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha has more power because Lok Sabha has been directly elected by the people, and they are responsible, accountable to the people as well. So we have all the members from Lok Sabha, and we have 30 members. We have to remember this number also, 30 members. So all the members are taken from the Lok Sabha. This is not to get confused with the Public Accounts Committee. Public Accounts Committee has a representation both from the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. But here Estimates Committee members are exclusively taken from the Lok Sabha, and the nomination or the representation is also based on the proportional representation system, and the voting is single transferable vote. So here there is no representation for the members of Rajya Sabha in Estimates Committee. And the Lok Sabha elects its members from amongst its members. When we say amongst its members, it doesn't mean that they just elect from the ruling party. Even the opposition party has their share in the Estimates Committee. When we say 30 members, the entire Lok Sabha's proportionate population is represented in the Estimates Committee. So every party, be it small party, larger party, ruling party, opposition party, or in coalition government, the party which is helping from the outside, all the parties will get their due representation in the Estimates Committee. And the principle, when we say the principle of election is, as we have already done in Public Accounts Committee, the principle is based on the proportional representation by the means of single transferable vote. That is, every party in the Lok Sabha will get their proportional representation. That is, the proportional will depend upon the members of such party representing in the Lok Sabha. So it's very clear. One thing we need to understand is every member, all the members of the estimates committee are exclusive from Lok Sabha, and we have a 30 members, and we have a proportional representation for their nomination in the committee. And their term is for 1 year. It's a single year term. Every year there may be a new members coming into that committee. Some people may get retired, some people may not get nominated, they may not get nominated to the committee, but the term is for 1 year. They can renominate again for the estimates committee, or for that matter any other committees, for like public accounts committee and the committee on public undertakings. So after 1 year a new election takes place and members may be changed, and we have all the chance to get re-elected. There is no bar, that is, there is no condition of ineligibility of any member if they completes their term of 1 year. So in general, we have a term of 1 year. This term is to ensure that all the members will work efficiently. If there is any member who is not up to the mark, then the government may replace that member with other expert member who could give his best or her best to ensure that whatever budget estimates are mentioned is be prudent and be efficient and effective. And when we say the functions of the estimate committee, why we need an estimate committee? What is the purpose of the estimates committee? First we have said that we need to examine the estimates mentioned in the budget, and here we have to not only examine and scrutinize the functioning of the government ministries. This committee, it just does not estimate the figures mentioned in the budget, but it would also scrutinize the functioning of the government ministries and departments, because the budget is spent by particular ministry or department. The budget is meant for everyone. We have a budget, we have many departments, major departments. When we say, like, we have defense ministry, or we have a home ministry, health ministry, education ministry. So we have various ministries, and it is up to the ministry or up to the department that how it could spend the budget which is allocated to them, and the figures would be in crores. And the purpose of estimates committee is not only just to scrutinize or examine the estimates, but also to scrutinize and to supervise the functioning of the ministry and departments. That is, how prudently, how efficiently these ministries are spending their budget which is allocated to their department, and the expenditure have to be utilized for that projects. See, when we say we have for example, we have health department, and the budget, the parliament has approved to grant, for example, 2000 crores to buy vaccinations from other country. So the estimates committee would make sure that that particular 2000 crores budget, whatever it's allocated by the government to health department, has to spend on that work only, to purchase the vaccinations from different countries, or for the production of such vaccinations. For example, when we had a COVID time, we would had very much problems faced by the common people because of lack of medicines and vaccinations. So the government has pumped in, most of the money has been allocated to health sector, and the estimates committee would generally scrutinize the functioning of such department, and to ensure that such budget which is allocated on particular head is spent on that head only. So there has not to be misappropriation or fund diversion. So the committee will ensure or make sure that the money is spent on that particular subject which has been allocated budget to that subject. So this is an important part which is the function of the estimates committee. The committee will also suggest alternative policies general what happens is the policy is framed by both bureaucrats and parliaments. It's by we have a delegated legislation. When we talk about the parliamentarians, we have a delegated legislation. Parliament would generally, or when we say cabinet with the help of the senior bureaucrats in various departments will come out with a policy. And in some cases there might be some lacunae or some mistakes in that policy, and the policy may not get the actual estimated returns. So what happens, the estimates committee would also examine on such policies. Does this policy will add to the development of the country, or the particular policy is just a burden on the public's exchequer? So the estimates committee would also suggest the government on replacing the complete policy or by giving suggestions to modify such policies. So it also suggests the alternate policies in order to bring about efficiency and economy in administration. The important thing here is efficiency and economy. The money which is spent by the government on the people, be it welfare administration or development administration, should not get waste, because it's a very hard earned money collected by the government in the form of taxes from the people. So we also have many political parties would come and say that to win elections they will distribute free this and that, but that should add to the development of the nation. So the estimates committee would also ensure that the policies should be right. We have many policies which got failed in many governments because there was lack of vision, or there was a lack of supervision, or the government did not expect the outcome of such projects. So there has to be a continuous supervision, re-examining the policies to check the efficiency of particular programs time to time, and to add or modify if any particular thing is required, and that is done by the estimates committee. The estimates committee will suggest the government on various matters related to economy and efficiency in the administration. So it also reports if the budget estimates affect economy. So whenever the budget is prepared, once it is discussed in the parliament, and if there is any chance of improving the budget, or by cutting the cost, or by adding more efficiency in that budget, such recommendations can also be made by estimates committee. And generally the government accepts such recommendations, because which government doesn't want efficiency and economy be in their administration? Because ultimately they have to win in next coming elections, and they have to also ensure that the funds of the government is utilized in a very efficient and proper way. So efficiency in administration is very important thing, but because budget will always becomes the lifeline of any government. The government has to try to spend the budget in a very balanced way for all the sectors, be it defense sector, science and technology, health, education, providing basic amenities to the people, transportation, or anything else. The government has to spend this budget in a very balanced way. So whatever the policies which are consistent with the budget have to be report by the estimates committee, and if they find any mistakes in such estimate, they have to report the government. So same thing, the committee can also suggest alternative policies. And one more thing is, it examines whether the money is well laid out within the limits of the policy implied in the estimates. So generally what happens, the department the department will prepare the budget and send it to the ministry, then approved by the cabinet, finally gets its approval by the parliament. Few departments, what they do is they will exaggerate the numbers. When there is a need of 1,000 crores, they may estimate for 2,000 crores, because knowing that parliament would anyway cut the budget. So in that way there may be a lot of exaggeration of the figures. That is again reported by the estimates committee. It will examine that the whatever the project is there, the fund is also have a equal proportionate to it. So it has to be within the limits of the policy. It suggests the form. It suggests the form in which the estimates are to be presented to the parliament. So the estimates committee will also have a format with it. On that particular format, it has to be presented to the parliament. So we have a public undertakings which is taken by another exclusive committee, that is Committee on Public Undertakings. Whatever there is wherever the matter is related to public undertakings, it may transfer that matter to the Committee on Public Undertakings, and it reports to the Lok Sabha time to time its examination of the estimates, because all the members of the estimates committee are invariably nominated by the Lok Sabha, exclusively by the Lok Sabha. It has to be accountable to the Lok Sabha only. So again the entire thing is about the budget. The committee cannot on its own examine the estimates by choosing the subheads by its own. The committee will get its work where there is a lot of criticism that they will take their issue, but the committee will generally not show any interest on particular ministry or particular department. It's against the principle of democracy. So again what happens is, if the committee has not done work on particular estimates of that year, it doesn't mean that budget will not get passed. The budget will get its approval by the parliament, and that is why we say that the work of the estimates committee is post-mortem work. Once the parliament approves the budget, then only the estimates committee will work on such budgets. So we have limitations of estimates committee. As we say, the limitations is the committee will not on its own change the policy, and it will also not do the work before the parliament has actually approved the budget. So it only examine the budget after it is voted upon and not before that. Actually it is voted upon. Once the vote on that budget is done, then only the estimate committee's function will start. So that is the reason why we call the function of the estimates committee as post-mortem. So nowhere the power to question the policies. The committee may suggest alternative policies, but the committee cannot question the policy of the government, because it is the will of the government, it is the will of the ruling party to bring such policies, because it has more responsibility. It has voted to power, it has to again win the election. So with that more responsibility, the government would act. And because the estimates committee's members are also from all the parties, irrespective of ruling or opposition, every party members are in the committee. So generally they do not question the policy or intention of the government, and all the recommendations made by the committee are non-binding. When we say non-binding, they are just advisory in nature, and government is not bonded by the recommendations made by the estimates committee. So they just recommend, they advise the government. It is up to the government that they listen or reject the recommendations made by these committees. So it will examine maximum, in a year the committee does not examine the budget of all the ministries. Maximum 10 to 12 ministries is examined. The other ministries will also get chance of examination, but it would take many years. So it's a continuous cycle. But the estimates committee will not examine the budget allocated to all the departments in a single year. It's a very complex process. It's a very hectic process, and because we have just 30 members, we cannot expect that all the ministries and departments would examine the budget estimates of entire ministry or the government. So it chooses only few departments, and then it would suggest on such estimates. The next important committee in financial committee is Committee on public undertakings. As we have discussed Public Accounts Committee and Estimates Committee, another important is Committee on Public Undertakings. We need to understand what the public undertakings are. See, public undertakings are the commercial arm of the government. So, generally we have many public undertakings, like public undertakings or public companies. We can also say that corporations, companies, these all come under public undertakings. We have, for example, we have Navratna, we have Maharatna, Mini Ratna. When we say Navratna, I'll just mention the major companies what Government of India has. Like, for example, we have BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. It's a public sector company. We have SAIL, that is Steel Authority of India Limited. We have GAIL, Gas Authority of India Limited. We have HPCL, that is Hindustan Petroleum, BPCL, Bharat Petroleum, and major things. We have NMDC, that is National Mineral Developmental Council. So all these companies and corporations which have stake of entire central government, or in collaboration with the state government or with other general private people also, but the major stakes will be of government here. So the public sector undertakings, that is PSUs, in short we call these as PSUs. These PSUs are the revenue earning arms of the government, because the government is not just to run the government should have its own revenue. The government all the times cannot depend on the taxes which is collected from the people. So here the government will also has its share in doing business. Unfortunately, recently due to the advent of LPG, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization, many governments across the world have started selling their shares in public sector undertakings, and even India has witnessed this. From our LPG reforms, we have started disinvestment, but still we have a good number of public sector undertakings earning a good amount to the government. So the reports on such public sector undertakings is also made by the CAG, that is Comptroller and Auditor General. So the Comptroller and Auditor General's report on public sector undertakings is the work of the Committee on Public PSU, Public Sector Undertakings, is done on the reports of CAG. So whatever the business they are following, how efficient, sold to the private parties and all. So it looks into the matters of such technical details, and this Committee on Public Undertakings has is also mentioned in 4th schedule of the rules of business, that is procedure to conduct business of the Lok Sabha. So we have mentioned in the 4th schedule. Again, this is an important thing. Committee on Public Undertakings has been created on the recommendation of Krishna Menon Committee. The important thing here, year is 1964, and on the recommendation of Krishna Menon Committee, the government has created the Committee on Public Undertakings. So when it comes to its member, that is composition, we have 22 members. This is like when we compare this, we can compare with Public Accounts Committee, PAC, because members are taken from both Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So both from Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, the members are derived. So 15 members are elected from the Lok Sabha and 7 members from the Rajya Sabha. So we have proportional representation by elections is by single transferable vote. So we have a proportional representation and by single transferable vote. We do not waste our time here because we have already discussed this in our previous videos. So every member is again elected by the parliament from both Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha for this public undertakings from both Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and it has a term of a year. After every year there will be a elections conducted, and the members can be changed or can be re-elected. So important here is the important function is reports and accounts of public sector undertakings, reports and accounts. So generally CAG will report on this or any other auditing agency mentioned by the CAG. So private auditors can also be engaged by the CAG to look into the matters of auditing and accounting of such companies. So whatever the report they present, the committee will study on such reports. So they examine the reports which are presented by the CAG or by any other auditing company supervised by the CAG. So Comptroller and Auditor General's report on PSO is also taken up by this committee. So CAG report is also taken up by this committee. So the committee checks upon the credibility of the business. As we know, the public undertakings are the business entities, and when there is a business, it has to be a business. We cannot just make the business entity run in an inefficient way, because we need to compete with the market. We need to look into the market's demands, and we need to supply such products. So public sector undertakings are also complete business entity. As we know, we also have public undertaking in communication sector, that is BSNL, Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, which could not compete with the other telecom giants, like we have Reliance, we have Airtel, we have other companies. So they could not compete. We also have MTNL. Again, MTNL, which provides internet broadband, is also not competing with the other broadband at least present in India. So it has to look into the credibility of such businesses. So the business has to run on efficient way, and the government should make sure that it get profits from such undertakings, but it should not be a white elephant on the government. So it checks into the efficiency and autonomy of the PSUs. When we talk about autonomy, this is the important thing why we are disinvesting, because the public sector undertakings are mainly headed by senior bureaucrats, that is IAS, IPS officers. So what generally happens is a sense of bureaucratization enters in public sector undertakings, and we generally do not follow the norms of the market, and we could not compete with the market giants present in this sector. So autonomy is missing here, right from taking decisions regarding the employees to expansion of such businesses. We have not given autonomy to such efficiencies, and because we do not give autonomy, we become inefficient. So the efficiency is decreased here. So the committee will suggest on various norms, ways and means on how to ensure that the autonomy is restored and efficiency is brought in by such public sector undertakings. So once the autonomy is given to such public sector undertakings, obviously there will be a reform in that particular public sector undertaking, and then it will try to at least generate profits, if not get into the losses. So that is one thing, and there is a cap here. When we say limitations of working of this committee, the committee could in year work on at least 10 to 12 public sector undertakings. So that is a limitation. It cannot examine the reports of all the public sector undertakings, and it could only it is the work of post-mortem. For example, if we find any scam, for example, we have a coal scam, and the committee could bring that scam only after it had actually happened, be it 2G scam, coal scam, whatever it is. So the report of the committee is always post-mortem once the damage has done. So it is also a limitation. It will not get into the details of the reports before the damage is done. So the committee is not concerned with any technical matters, because as we know, business is purely technical. When we say we have various businesses, right from BHEL to many oil companies. Most of the companies would hire the experts from other background, so the members may not understand the technical details. So this is also one of the limitations, because we cannot expect the members of the parliament, no, not everyone, but most of them are not do not have or might not have technical education. So it is also a limitation, and all the recommendations are put forward by the committee, which are only advisory in nature. They are not binding. So the committee will just suggest the government, and the government may or may not accept such recommendations. Parliament and various legislative process or procedures which is followed in the parliament. Just to have a brief understanding, when we say parliament, we have Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and President. So even President is the part of the parliament. So Lok Sabha is the lower house, which is directly elected by the people, and we have Rajya Sabha, which is upper house. We also call it as elders house, and we know it's a president who is the nominal executive or head of the nation. So when the bill is introduced in the Lok Sabha, then when it is passed, then it is sent to Rajya Sabha. When both the houses passes the bill, then it has to get assent of the president to become an act. To become an act, a bill has to pass in both the houses, and then the president's assent is also needed to make it a law. So for any legislative process, that is to formulate a policy, to bring a law, there is a parliamentary procedure. So it's not that just any bill could become a law. There has to be a procedure. So for example, in bill also we have few varieties. Like we have ordinary bill, we have money bill, we have financial bill, we have constitutional amendment bill. So all those bills are different in nature. So when we say bill, a bill is a basic thing, a basic document which converts into a law by following all those parliamentary procedures. And we also can say that few bills need simple majority, few bills need special majority, and few bills which has implications on federal system, or the bill which has a subject concern with the state list or concurrent list, then such bills need to have a special majority with the support of more than half of the states. So we can say that first we need to understand what is bill, how many types of bills are there, for which bill they need to have a president's assent, which bill need to have simple majority, special majority, which bill is just introduced in the Lok Sabha, not in the Rajya Sabha. So all these technicalities are needed to be understood. So in this class, we try to understand the parliamentary procedure by understanding the bill, the types of bill and types of majority which are needed to pass a bill and to make a law. Okay. So we have a legislative procedures in parliament. As we know, parliament is the highest authority to frame any law. As no, we need to understand that we have three branches of the government. One is legislature, executive and judiciary. So in legislature, the policies are framed. So the representatives of the people who are also executive, they frame the policies. So for framing any law, to bring any law, there have to be a bill. A bill is a basic document which after following all those procedure will become a law. So here the legislative procedure is identical. When we say the legislative procedure, in general, both the procedures are identical in the both houses. That is, we have two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The procedure is similar in both the houses. Obviously, when the matter is about money bill, when the bill is money bill, then Lok Sabha has more power when compared to Rajya Sabha. And where we have other ordinary bills, then both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have similar powers. So that we'll discuss when we classify the bills, and based on those classification we also distinguish the powers of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. But in general, for any ordinary bill, the legislative process is similar. That is, there have to be a quorum needed to run a house. Both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha should have a minimum quorum. When I say quorum, it's 1/10 of the members of that house should be present. For example, in Lok Sabha, at least 55 members should be present to run the house. To start the business of the house, a minimum number of members of that house need to be present. That is what we call it as a quorum. Quorum is 1/10 of the member of the house needed to be present to initiate the business of the house. Similarly, in Rajya Sabha, we have 25 members. A minimum 25 members need to be present to run the house. That is, this is a minimum quorum. So, as we know, Lok Sabha is a larger body. Members are more in the Rajya Sabha, and in Lok Sabha, which is a representative of the states, we have half of the members, at least nearly half of the members are present in the Rajya Sabha. So Lok Sabha, again, it is presided by the speaker and assisted, or in the absence of the speaker, we have a deputy speaker who presides the Lok Sabha. And similarly, in Rajya Sabha, we have chairman and deputy chairman who presides Rajya Sabha. When we say chairman, chairman is Vice President of India. Vice President of India will act as a chairman of the Rajya Sabha. When we say the legislative procedure in the parliament, right from drafting a bill or right from introduction of the bill in either of the house, they follow a due process. A procedure is followed, like first introduction of the bill, then we have a first reading, then second reading, then after second reading those are given to select committees, then after committees we have a third reading where clause by clause debates are done. Then after that it is undergone to voting. Then if it is passed in that house, it is sent to another house. The similar procedure is applied in the next house. Then after passing the bill in that house, it is sent to the assent of the president. The president has the veto power. The president can accept the bill, can return the bill, or can reject the bill. So we have a parliamentary procedure. We'll understand to what kind of bill, what kind of procedure is implemented. So generally speaking, the legislative procedure is identical in both the houses of the parliament. Every bill has to pass. Every bill has to pass through the same stages in each house, because again, when we say the first reading, second reading, sending to committees for detailed study of such provisions in the bill, in either of the house, in Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha, the procedure is similar. The procedure is identical. So in this slide, what we need to understand is, for any bill to become an act, it has to follow a prescribed procedure which is similar in both the houses. The only thing is, the power of houses may differ. For example, when I said money bill is introduced only in the Lok Sabha. Money bill cannot be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha has no power to reject the money bill. Obviously, Rajya Sabha can discuss and debate on such bills, but it cannot return or reject such bills. And only in Lok Sabha it is introduced by a prior permission of the president. So we'll discuss when we just discuss about the bill. But otherwise, what we should understand is, in both the houses, the procedure is similar. So what is a bill? What is a bill? It's a very common name. Bills are the primary things which will, by following all those procedures, will become a law. So a bill is a proposal. It's a proposal which, if accepted by both the houses, and if it is given assent by the president, then such bill will become a law or act. So primarily, to bring any law or to bring any legislation, we need to introduce a bill. So whatever the law government will wanted to bring, so that law has to be initially prepared as a draft bill, and such bill has to be introduced in either of the house depending upon the nature of the bill. So a bill is a proposal for legislation. A bill in itself is not a legislation, but it's a proposal. It's a primary draft where by having all those procedures followed, if it is passes all those procedures, then it will become a law. So a bill is a proposal for legislation that becomes an act. When I say act or law, it's same. It becomes an act which is duly enacted. It is by passing all the procedures. So once it is duly enacted in sense, if both the houses passes the bill, then by president's assent it becomes an act. So bill is a proposal for the legislation. So it's a first step. It's the first step of the law. The first step of the law is to draft a bill. We need to draft a bill. We need to introduce the bill in the house, and there will be a parliamentary procedure which a bill has to pass all those procedures to become an act. So what kinds of bills we have? So in general, before getting into ordinary bill, money bill, financial bill, or constitutional amendment bills, in general, the bills are of two types. So the bills may be of two kinds. One is public bill and one is private bill. When we say public bill, one thing we need to understand that the executive or the member of parliament has a dual role to play in our parliamentary system of democracy. Member of parliament is also part of the executive. Who is executive? So executive is the head of the ministry or head of the department. The same person who is also the member of the parliament will become the head of the executive in our system of parliament. That is, we have a council of ministers which is headed by the prime minister. So in council of ministers we have portfolio system. That is, the members who got elected or nominated to the Rajya Sabha also. We have that provision in India, which generally do not have in British parliamentary system. But in India, the member of the parliament can only become the executive or the part of the executive. And so we have a council of ministers. Within the council of minister, we have very core group, that is cabinet ministers. So any minister who introduces the bill will become a public bill. So public bill is also called as government bill, because here the government is the executive. Executive is the highest authority, to run the government or to frame the policies. So the minister or the member of the council of ministers can introduce the bill, which is called a public bill. We have a private bill. Private bill is introduced by the member of the parliament who is not a minister. So private bill here is maybe the member of the parliament or MP, maybe from ruling party or opposition party, maybe from Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. If he is not a minister or if he is not an executive, and that if that person introduces the bill, such bills are called private bills. So this is a brief thing. This is a general understanding what is public bill and private bill. Public bills are those bills which are introduced by a minister or a part of the executive, and private bills are the bills which is introduced by a non-minister. So in general we have two kinds of bills, public bills and private bills. So we generally give importance to public bills. Public bills, if public bills are not passed in the house or in the parliament, then the government would face a no confidence motion, or there might be a fall of the government, there might be a dissolution of the Lok Sabha. So such importance is given to the public bill. Generally what happens is public bill will have a support of the parliament, because as we know, we have a majority party system. Whoever has majority in the house will generally run the government. So public bills are generally deemed to gain support in the house of the parliament. Private bills are not considered that important, because might be they are not introduced by the executive, or they might not have much important subject to be dealt with. So that is one general classification of a bill, that is private bill and public bill. And here the bill are of these categories also, depending upon the importance of the bill, depending upon the nature of the bill. We have four kinds of bills. That is, one is ordinary bill under Article 107. We have money bill. Money bill are most important bills here. Money bills under Article 110. We have financial bills. We have financial bills under Article 117, and we have constitutional amendment bill. This is important, constitutional amendment bill under Article 368. Even under finance bill, we have two kinds, that is finance bill and 1 and finance bill 2. Again, this we'll discuss, which is also important from the point of examination, because we'll get few questions from this. Importance of a money bill, what is the difference between money bill and finance bill, again difference between finance bill 1 and finance bill 2, where these bills will generally introduced, what is the role of president in such bills, what is the role of speaker, where we generally find joint sitting when there is a deadlock between both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, or if the bill is not passed, then there creates a deadlock if it is for more than 6 months. So what happens is, few bills here, for example money bill, on money bills we do not generally have a deadlock, because Lok Sabha has more power to pass money bills, because Rajya Sabha generally cannot reject the money bill. They have to pass it within the time span of 14 days. If the Rajya Sabha keeps the bill for more than 14 days, then it is deemed to be passed. So we have a few importance attached to the nature of the bills. So here what we generally need to understand is, bills are of four types. We need to also remember the articles, they are important. As we know, we have an annual financial statement. Generally we call this as budget. We have budget under Article 112. Under Article 112 we have a budget, annual financial statement. Budget is not mentioned in the constitution. We generally call it as an annual financial statement. Informal we call as a budget. It is mentioned in Article 112. So all these articles are important in terms of parliamentary procedure. What are ordinary bills? We have ordinary bills. Ordinary bills are the bills which can be introduced in either house of the parliament. That is, ordinary bills can be introduced in the Lok Sabha, can be introduced in the Rajya Sabha, and in general most of the bills of the government are ordinary bills. Because there are very few bills which carries very significant things, and probably very few bills which are categorized as money bills, which are categorized as finance bill 1, or which are categorized as constitutional amendment bills, where the bill is intended to amend the constitution. So most of the bills are ordinary bills, and for ordinary bills we need to have a simple majority. Only simple majority is sufficient to pass the bill in the house. So it's very simple process, because what simple majority is, half of the house voting is a simple thing. Whoever comes to vote, a majority of them if votes towards the bill to pass the bill, then the bill gets passed. So it's a simple thing, and most of the bills are ordinary bills. When we say money bills are those bills which has a significant thing regarding the taxation, regarding the matters of expenditure or revenue of consolidated fund of India, or which is concerned with the contingency fund of India, or any such matter which is which has significant in raising the revenue or decreasing the revenue, or we have altering the revenue or taxation process. So whatever the things which are concerned with the matters regarding money are money bills. We will discuss this when we specifically talk about the money bills. So money bills are important because they have a significance regarding the taxation or regarding consolidated fund of India, contingency fund of India. So money bills are introduced only in the Lok Sabha. Here money bills are introduced only in the Lok Sabha, and for that prior permission of the president is also needed. So before money bills are introduced in the Lok Sabha, the president has to give his assent. And one thing, once the Lok Sabha passes the money bill, before making it to the Rajya Sabha or before introducing it in the Rajya Sabha, the speaker has to endorse that this is a money bill. So that is the significance what we have regarding money bill. We have finance bills also. In finance bill, we have finance bill 1 and finance bill 2. Here all finance bills are not money bills, but all money bills are finance bills. So even finance bills, few finance bills have few implications. Few finance bills also dealt similar to money bills. As we know, we have a constituent amendment bill. These are also important. When we say Article 368, it is regarding the constitutional amendment. So in constitutional amendment, to amend the constitution, we generally have three types of majority. One is simple majority, that is simple majority of the people coming and voting. Then we have a special majority. Special majority is we have 2/3 of the majority. 2/3 of the majority present and voting, and that 2/3 should be more than half of the total members of the house. So that is what we have, 2/3 of the majority. We call this as a special majority. One is a simple majority and one is special majority. And we have other type also where the bill will be passed by special majority of the parliament, and then such bill also needed a support of more than half of the states if the subject concerned is. So these are the classifications of the bill, and we'll discuss these things in detail. We have lot of understanding should be made on these bills. One thing is we need to compare public bill and private bill. Then we need to understand various ordinary bills and the procedure which is followed in the parliament. We need to also understand the difference between money bill and ordinary bill. We need to understand the difference between money bill and financial bill. So in coming class, we would be dealing with these bills in detail, and we will be also dealing the parliamentary procedures to bring this bill into act. So we'll continue this topic in our next class. Thank you for being with me. Welcome to Telugu One Academy. We will be discussing parliamentary committees today. In this class, we have various important committees of parliament. Generally, we can say that we have two important committees. One is parliamentary committee. Under parliamentary committee, we have standing committees and ad hoc committees. So when we say standing committees, these are permanent committees. So every year, the parliament has to constitute these committees, and we have various standing committees on various matters, like we have a financial standing committee, we have committee on day-to-day business, we have a committee on the privileges, we have committee also on various factors which is concerned with the parliament, and we also have ad hoc committees. Ad hoc committees are temporary committees. Once the purpose gets solved, these committees are dissolved. So we have ad hoc committees which are constituted by the parliament for a limited period till the particular issue is solved. But in our exam, in UPSC or in various other exams, especially when we talk about Group 1 services under the TSPSC and APPSC, we have parliamentary committees which focuses mainly on financial committees, that is permanent committees, financial committees. And in financial committee, we have three important committees. That is, we have PAC, that is we have Public Account Committee, we have Estimate Committee, and we have Committee on Public Undertakings. So first we need to understand why we should have these committees, why we should have parliamentary committees. So we'll get into the class. So importance of parliamentary committee. We know the importance of parliament. Parliament is where the people sends their representative to the parliament, and the parliamentarians, the members of the parliament, both Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, will debate, discuss and decide on various acts which become law, and which is when implemented will add to the growth of the country. So laws are very important here. So to discuss on various matters, as we know, parliamentarians are may not be mature enough, or they are amateurs, that is they may not have subject knowledge, because parliament discusses on various matters like finances, defense, education, health, security of the nation. So the parliament, the members of the parliament may not have adequate technical knowledge about these things, so they may just discuss on skeleton nature. So but we have to make a law, we have to pass a legislation by giving it a detailed study, by knowing its pros and cons of such law. If such law is implemented, or if we bring such policy, how would it affect? Would it be for the benefit of the people, or would it have a burden on the resources? So all these things will be discussed in detail by the parliamentary committee. So parliamentary committee acts as a basic work. They will add on the importance, they give technical scope or focus on such matters. So because of the paucity of the time of the parliamentarians, that is they do not have much time, because most of the time they even have to spend in their constituency, because the constituency is large for the parliament, and they have to look after their people, because they have to go for the elections, so they have to fulfill their promises. So in that way they may not find time to get into the details of these matters. That is paucity of time, what we can call. And second is, as we have discussed, they do not have technical knowledge, because when we say finances, when we say expenditure, when we say appropriation, when we say revenue, all these things need a technical expertise, that is subject knowledge of such matter. So when a bill is introduced in the parliament which is related to the agricultural policy, or which is related to the education policy, health policy, defense policy, industrial policy, so every subject has its own importance. So to know much about such subjects, such policy, they have to give a very detailed discussion and debate. And for that matter, we have constituted, the parliament have constituted parliamentary committees which will work on such matters in detail. So Article 118 empowers the parliament to create such parliamentary committees which is constituted every year. So, importance of parliamentary committee is it provides a forum. We will have a platform. We will have a platform where the members of parliamentary committee will discuss on such issues